What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be making a tier list of the items we currently have in Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 3, letting you know what I think is good, what they do well, what they don't do well, and just how these items compare to others. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more. Comment down below what you think is the best item this season and like what your least favorite item is this season. And if you guys would like to use my code in the shop when getting anything, it is EvolvedJake, just like my channel name is, and it will be at the top of the list. So, where to start? Probably with the hunting rifle. I think this is the best weapon in the loot pool right now, or like the most powerful, most overpowered, depending on how you want to word it. Like some people's definition of overpowered is, different. But when used well, the hunting rifle is completely dominant. It will one-hit enemies, I believe blue rarity and higher. Even a full HP opponent in zero build will get one hit. And then even if you don't hit headshots, the body shot damage, just hitting 100 damage immediately and then being able to swap to some sort of spray weapon or push with mobility and then aim down sights in the air and shoot this. Make this just, like I said, I think it's the best weapon in the loot pool right now, or the most powerful, most effective, depending on how you want to word it. The hunting rifle is incredibly good. And so I'm not that great with it currently. I feel like I have a not great understanding of the weapon's bullet drop because my brain wants to lead more with it than what's actually needed. You can play like it's hit scan most of the time, unless it's like a really long range fight. You could play like it's basically hit scan and you will do really good. The bullet drop on this is not that significant, not that severe, and in kind of close medium range fights, you can dish out a lot of damage incredibly quick and catch a lot of people off guard. So I think the hunting rifle is incredibly good. I would recommend getting used to it. That's why I kind of said that I'm not as good with it as I would like to be right now, because like I'm trying to get more used to it and play more with it and just like get a better feel for the bullet drop. My brain is just so warped around like the OG hunting rifle in Fortnite Chapter 1 that actually did have a very significant amount of bullet drop. But either way, it's very good and I would recommend trying to get used to it. I guess we can rank the shotguns. That's always one of the more interesting talking points in a Fortnite loot pool. I think it has shifted a lot. The start of the season, the chaos was dominant and everything else just felt kind of crap. And now with the chaos being gone and the other shotguns getting buffed, I feel like they all feel pretty solid. But if I had to rank them, I think I'd put the striker pump A tier. This is probably my preferred shotgun at this point. The damage potential on this is incredibly good. People act like it's a really weak pump, but the purple is like 195 max. The gold has 201 max. The blue has 190 max. You can hit hard with this if you hit a good shot. It's just not incredibly consistent if you don't hit a really good shot. If you hit a 4 out of 10 shot, you're going to get pretty low damage. But when your aim is on point, this thing does a lot of damage in a single shot. Makes it easy for you to swap to another weapon and then, finish the job that way. Next, we're going to have the extending focus shotgun. And I think I'm also going to put this one A tier. I haven't played as much with this one as I would have liked. But the times I've used it since the chaos has been vaulted, it has actually felt very good to me. But I pretty much only use it if I find like a purple or gold version and I have a low rarity pump. But I feel like every game I play with the extending focus shotgun, I'm enjoying it more. And it just is a very good, solid damage, but also spammy shotgun. It has an interesting mechanic where the crosshair tightens as you shoot it if you're shooting each shot in quick succession. So if you just spam out all 3 shots, the third shot is going to have the smallest crosshair, which is going to lead to the most like pellet consistency if your aim is on point, and should lead to the most consistent damage. So 3 shots is not the most amount. You're probably going to have to reload it after every single kill, but 3 shots probably should get you a kill or leave you with an opponent that is so weak that you could just very easily finish them with your spray weapon. And the final is going to be the Maven. I guess I'm going to put this B tier. I think it's okay. Again, I feel like I maybe haven't played enough with this yet. There's been times where it's felt solid to me, but I pretty much also only used it at high rarity. But so far playing, I think it's a step down from the other shotguns. Like if I had to rank them, I think I would go striker pump, extending focus, and then Maven. So we'll have it 1 tier below them, but I don't think it's bad. And like I've said in a few videos, I think a lot of the shotgun choice this season is just going to come down to your personal preference because they're all like kind of close enough to each other in terms of how good they are. So if you like the Maven, that's not bad by any means. It has its strengths. It's the best spammy shotgun. Even though the extending focus has a higher fire rate than the Maven, the fact that the Maven just has much better mag capacity makes it feel like a better kind of spam shotgun. It's like a different playstyle, but I think the Maven can be good. Ranger Pistol is also going to be S tier. I think the two best items in the loot pool right now are the Hunting Rifle and the Ranger Pistol. This thing is incredibly accurate. The fire rate is solid. The recoil is incredibly minimal. The damage isn't the greatest, but it's not the worst either. And then the same is true of the range. It's not like across the map you're not going to have any fall off, but it's good enough in medium range, and it's good enough in those situations where like somebody's shockwaving away from you, that I think the Ranger Pistol is just really good. Its kind of main downside is going to be mag size, but it does reload incredibly quick, which is a nice trade-off. The mag size can be a bit of a problem, I feel like, even though it does reload quickly, just because of the nature of this season just feels very like chaotic and third-party centric. And in those situations, it does kind of feel like the mag size can get you into some trouble. But I think, like I said, I just think it's the best kind of spray weapon. It's the best medium range weapon. It is incredibly dominant this season. And I would assume most of you are, you've played against it enough to really know that this thing just absolutely shreds if your aim is on point. I guess we can rank the rest of the spray weapons. In Chapter 7, Season 1, I would have had the Flex at S tier. But this season, it just feels very lacking. I'm probably going to put it at B tier. The thing that, like, turns me off most to it is if you're in a situation where an enemy is shockwaving away from you or overdrive nading away from you, and that's a type of fight that's going to crop up a lot this season. And in Chapter 7 Season 1, it felt like in those fights the range was good enough and the damage was good enough to where it still like kind of held its own, and you still had like potential to get kills on people fleeing like that. But with how it is now, if I don't have them like super duper one shot, I feel like they're just fleeing for free. And you guys know how Fortnite players are. Lots of fights are going to involve mobility, and they're going to involve resetting. Also, this video is made for zero build. If you made it this point in the video and you're a builds player, some of these would be different. Like the Striker Pump would probably be S tier. Stinger SMG is probably going to be same thing. It's a better spray weapon, I think. If you're just going to run 3 guns and you want just a pure spray weapon, I think it's better than the Flex, but it is less versatile than the Flex, and it's less accurate. It runs into the same problem, though, of just, like, anybody that wants to use mobility to get away from you is going to be more of a problem with this than if you were using the Ranger Pistol. And that's kind of that's why I use the Ranger Pistol most of the time compared to the Flex or the Stinger, is it's just significantly better at preventing enemies from leaving, which is going to be something that really helps you throughout the course of the game. When you get someone weak, you want to finish them, not just let them get away for free. We can rank the ARs next. I'm probably going to put the Warforged B tier. It's a kind of versatile do-it-all AR, solid fire rate, solid damage. It's not the most accurate, but it's accurate enough, and it's just a spammy AR. And this would be something that would complement a shotgun well in like a 2-gun setup, or maybe 3 guns if you wanted to tack the hunting rifle onto that. But my main kind of problem with this weapon is just why would I use it when the Ranger Pistol exists? I feel like every single fight where where I'm comparing these two weapons, like they're going to be used in a similar role, I feel like the only real advantage the Warforged has is like mag size, I guess, and then range as well. But that range can be a bit deceiving because it has more bloom. And so at long range, if you're spamming, you're not going to be hitting as many shots with this as you would something like the Ranger Pistol. And so you're probably going to need to burst or tap fire if you want to be accurate at longer range. And then I feel like that just kind of nukes your damage output over time. So like if the Ranger Pistol wasn't in the loot pool, I think I would be using this weapon a lot, and I think I would really like this weapon. But with the Ranger Pistol in the loot pool, it just makes the Warforged feel kind of like redundant to me. Next, we'll have the Burst Rifle. I would put this at A tier. I don't end up using it all the time, but in terms of just being a medium to long range, kind of dominant weapon, it feels really good. And I feel like that's what it does a lot better than the Warforged. Like the Warforged is more of like a close medium range AR, and that's why I feel like the Ranger Pistol just outclasses it. But if you did want something for, good long-range damage, if you wanted something for, opening, damage or opening picks on players, I think the Burst Rifle is incredibly good. But just with how zero build typically plays out, running 3 guns can be a bit of a hindrance. And then also the dominance of the hunting rifle kind of also makes the burst feel not as good, because those situations I talked about were like medium to long range, you want to get opening damage on somebody. The burst feels good there, but the hunting rifle, is going to be even better. So I like the burst a lot, but with how I typically like to play, having double mobility, I don't end up using it all the time. Overdrive nades, we can have S tier. I think these are the best mobility item in the loot pool right now. They're somewhat easy to find. It's just a shockwave style item that gives you the overdrive effect. And like I touched on earlier, lots of fights involve mobility and involve like kind of resetting and kind of engaging that way. And the overdrives just do that incredibly well. The other mobility item we have in the loot pool, the 7 boots, I don't like as much. I feel like I have a very, very bad feel for this weapon, honestly, or item. I feel like almost everything I want to do with this item does not happen. When I want to crouch, I feel like I slide, and a lot of times when I want to slide, I feel like I just want to crouch. It's like a decent travel around the map option. In fights, the boosted slide can help, but it can also be somewhat of an inconvenience. The main kind of benefit, like I said, is just traveling the map, and I kind of don't rate that very much as a mobility item because of how good some of the weapons are this season. If you catch somebody off using boots and you have the ranger pistol, you have the hunting rifle, you have the burst, the warforged, you can melt them down incredibly quick and kind of create a situation where they're probably not going to be able to come back from. Unless they're very far away, you're going to be able to keep pace with them with the overdrives, I feel like, decently well, unless they're on water or unless they have like the mythic version maybe. But overall, I just feel like these leave you very vulnerable, and it's not like a dominant mobility item like we've seen with some other mobility items, like the gloves last season, I would say, were like a dominant mobility item. Chaos Exploder IR, I think we'll put C tier. They nerfed this thing into the ground, luckily. At launch, it would have been S tier, and it was the most broken item in the loot pool, but it got nerfed relatively quickly, which I very much appreciate. Thank you, Epic Games. It still feels frustrating to play against. Like, there's never been a time... I feel like of all the weapons to get shot by in this loot pool, this is the most annoying, even if it isn't the best anymore. Like, it's just a very kind of frustrating, tilting, off-putting item. But in terms of effectiveness, I really don't think it's that great anymore. The Lancehead pistol, we'll put A tier. I think this is actually a very well-balanced and good weapon. It kills incredibly fast. It probably kills faster than the Ranger pistol, but you need to have a fast enough trigger finger to make that work. And having a fast trigger finger and tapping incredibly fast with this weapon is not just about tapping incredibly fast. You also need to like track while doing that and keep up your movement. It can be a lot to do at once. And so I think this is a very high skill item, and in the right hands, it can be incredibly good. But in the wrong hands, it's not going to be very good. And then even me, like, I feel like I can shoot it pretty fast if I need to. But my movement and tracking definitely suffers as a result of that. So I think it's a very good item. It's a very well-balanced item, I think. But it's not my preferred item to use. I think also a lot of people don't like that the crosshair is like really janky and like kind of wonky with it. Like, it bounces around a lot. But I feel like that's mostly for show. It feels like decently accurate when I'm using it. What next? Business turret, we'll put this D tier. I know this is going to upset a lot of people, but I don't think this thing is remotely good. I mostly play solos, and so if you're playing solos and you fight somebody using this, you just eliminate them, and then the turret is no longer a problem. And I feel like even in team game modes a majority of the time, this is only a problem if you're not very good at fighting. I feel like if you're above average at fighting, this is going to be something that doesn't really affect the game too much. But if you aren't the greatest at fighting, or it's a very chaotic moment, or, you know, you're getting really overwhelmed, I feel like that's where this can be a problem. One potential counter to it is going to be these shield breaker EMPs. If you throw this at a turret, it will disable it. If you throw it at an enemy, I think it does 80 shield damage. It'll disable cars. It'll disable the boots. Unfortunately, it doesn't disable the Guardian shield, which we'll get to in a moment. But these shield breaker EMPs are, you know, they've been a really overpowered item or a really powerful item in pretty much every zero build season that they're in. Just being able to get 80 shield splash damage on an enemy and then chuck 2 of them back to back and fully delete somebody's shield makes them a much easier target to clean up. I have the bunkers here. This is meant to be the brick bunker. I just didn't have the icon for it. They're fine, I guess. With how the season plays, I don't really use them, but, you know, situationally, there's times where they could be really good, or in an end game, they could definitely be really, really helpful. The Guardian Shield, this is like borderline S tier, I think. It's actually an incredibly good item. You could throw it down and create a barrier to protect yourself and then kind of bubble fight around the shield itself. You can hold the shield out while you're using the boots. I feel like you kind of see that less now that the prevalence of the mythic boots is much lower than it was before. But when the mythic boots were very, like, not very common, but somewhat common, you know, I feel like the boots Guardian Shield playstyle was actually decently effective. So in the right hands of somebody who uses this well, it's S tier. Put it A tier, maybe B tier. It can kind of be anywhere in there. This is an item that's somewhat hard to rank because most of the time it's probably just not going to matter. But in the hands of somebody who uses it well, it's S tier. So maybe we should put it B. Like I said, it's a hard item to rank. Ranking heals I don't really like to do because it's just kind of pointless, I feel like. But I feel like I would do it like this maybe. And then Shieldfish and Slurpfish would be S tier. But a lot of it's just going to come down to what you have access to. If you're going to a vending machine, I would be buying, you know, Chug Jugs or Big Pots. Big Pots do heal a bit faster than Chugs. But the fact that once you start to use it, the item is gone. So if you get interrupted, that can be a bit of a problem. And then it also has less healing per slot. So there's some give and take there, but probably most of the time, the Chug is going to be better in zero build. And then minis, I feel like, are very outdated for zero build. And builds, they can still be somewhat useful just because of the fast, like, healing of it. But in zero build, I feel like minis are not really something I want to carry. The shield item, I don't know how to rank. We'll put it B tier, I guess. It could be incredibly good. It could also just be S tier because there's no downside to it. But it blocks 1 shot worth of damage on you. And that can be incredibly good in a season that has the hunting rifle. Whether it's this bush or the shrub bomb that you throw down, it blocks a single shot worth of damage. If you shockwave and you have a bush equipped on you, it will destroy the bush. If you overdrive nade, the bush seems to be fine. Whenever I've activated the Sprite extractor, it's destroyed by bush. And then it also feels like just over time this season, the bush goes away. Like, it doesn't just last until a single shot hits it. But there's times where this can completely save your life. And so if you find one, it's probably worth putting on. It's not really of a concealment. It's more of like an armor item. Now we come to the Sprites. These, I feel like, are somewhat difficult to rank because, like the bush, it's not like you really get penalized for using it. So you might disagree with my rankings on this, but I'm just going to rank them how I feel according to the Sprites. Like, they're ranked amongst each other. But I would put Ghost Sprite S tier. This makes it to where you go invisible for a bit after you reload, and that can be incredibly helpful in fights. Especially kind of like if you see my 3 favorite items here, or what I think the 3 best items are. With the hunting, you shoot 1 shot, you're reloading. That activates Ghost. Ranger Pistol has a low mag size, but it reloads incredibly quick. That's good for Ghost. And then Striker Pump, you can reload 1 shell at a time. So all these items just naturally are good at triggering the Ghost. And it can be really helpful when you're fighting an enemy to make the fight more inconvenient for them. If you're trying to push an enemy, it can maybe throw them off a bit. If you're trying to escape an enemy, being able to just like shockwave away and then turn yourself invisible and then maybe shockwave away again, helps a lot. So as far as affecting fights go, I feel like the Ghost Sprite is the best one. The Demon Sprite would be my second favorite. This gives you Siphon after you eliminate an enemy, and at level 5 you get 30 health or shield immediately upon the elimination. We talked about how third parties can be, you know, pretty rampant this season, so I think this one is incredibly good. I think those would be the only S tier. In builds, the King Sprite is definitely S tier. This increases your pickaxe damage, and that is really good for trying to pickaxe enemy boxes to like cheese your way in. You know, since you can do it immediately, you might catch them off guard. You could take walls faster. You can farm mats faster. You could just pressure their builds faster. So in builds, I think the King Sprite would be S tier. But in zero build, I guess it would be B tier. It could be helpful when like looting or something, you know, like you can quickly break the house down or break into the attic, whatever you got to do. But overall, it's not really something I care that much about having in zero build. Water Sprite, probably B tier as well. I feel like most of these are going to be B tier. Like most of the Sprite power levels, it's like, yeah, that's nice to have, but it's not something I really play around as much as like the Ghost Sprite. The Ghost Sprite is like the only one I feel like I really play around like consistently. This gives you shield when you're in water, and that can be helpful. The times I've noticed this most is if I'm landing at a POI that has water in it or around it, like sunken. That place, I noticed the Water Sprite helping me a decent amount off spawn. But again, it's not something that like consistently helps me that much. The 0 point Sprite, I guess, would be A tier. This gives you a shield bubble when you heal, and you can kind of use this and the Chug Jug together to just spawn a shield bubble when you need one. If you are missing any amount of health at all, you can activate your shield, your Chug Jug. And so what some people do is they take 1 tick of storm damage, and then they can just start to heal that at any time to give themselves a shield bubble. And I think it lasts decently long at level 5. So the 0 point Sprite is solid. I don't have the regular 0 point. I only have the golden one, and that costs like 15,000 dust to come back. So I don't use it really ever. Like, it wouldn't be something I could consistently play around. Peanut gives you extra loot when you eliminate somebody. That's fine, I guess. I feel like all of the ones that give extra loot are just fine. So the Earth Sprite gives you extra loot when you open chests. This gives you extra loot when it levels up, and I think at the highest level you have a good chance of getting the mythic boots. And then the Peanut gives you extra loot on eliminations. And, you know, extra loot is nice. It's not going to hurt you in any way, but it's not as game-changing, I feel like, as the Ghost Sprite that can consistently play around and like affect fights. The Fire Sprite does damage, like spawns fire around people when you damage them. It's cool. I feel like I've never noticed this when using it or playing against it. The only time I've really noticed it is when I eliminate somebody and then I try to go get their loot and then there's like fire and now I'm damaging myself. Or one time my teammate was knocked and I was like damaging them with the fire because I didn't really realize I had it. The duck sprite gives you shield when you emote. It's okay, you know, in some situations, you know, you could go somewhere and emote, but like it takes a while to heal you and it's not really something I'm going to play around that much. And then the punk sprite, I think, has a chance to give you an infinite ammo, which sounds OP. Like, I'm sure a lot of people would be like, oh, infinite ammo, that sounds crazy. But I feel like most of the time in Fortnite, ammo is not really a concern outside of the early game. Once you've gotten a few eliminations and you've gotten, like, the game rolling, I feel like ammo in public matches is rarely a concern. In competitive, it can be much more of a factor, but the sprites aren't even in competitive. So, this, you know, we're only talking about public matches with this tier list. So, the punk sprite would be C tier. I'm sure some people would probably disagree with that. And probably all my rankings on the sprites, like I said, they're kind of weird to rank. But that's how I would have them. One thing I forgot was the Rift to Go. I would probably put that at A tier or B tier. It's like a decent, like, get out of jail free item. But a lot of times, if you're incredibly weak, you know, you might just get shot out of the sky. The Ranger pistol is your only spray. I feel like makes it a bit harder to deal with people that use the Rift to Go. It also is really helpful in team game modes to just be able to move everybody together. But you got to be careful because just gliding in the air does leave you very vulnerable to getting beamed by a lot of these spray weapons if you're not, like, really high up. Also, the white heals, I don't really rank because you don't really carry white heals that much in pubs. You know, if you're weak and you find a med kit, it's great. That's tier. But most of the time, I'm not really going to carry med kits. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys found this to be helpful, informative, or interesting. If you did, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.